Picture this. A perfect June afternoon at Yale University. The kind of day where the Connecticut sun paints everything in a golden glow, and the elites sip champagne on manicured lawns. Amid the laughter and clinking glasses, Captain Nora Whitlock stands alone under a towering maple tree. Her crisp navy uniform a silent rebellion against the sea of Armani suits and Gucci dresses. She's a decorated officer, 32, with 14 years in the Navy SEALs, but today she's invisible. Her father, Everett Langston, a Wall Street titan, strides through the crowd, his bespoke suit gleaming like armor. He's here for his golden child, Ivy, graduating summa cum laude. As he raises a glass to her, his voice booms. Ivy is our family's crown jewel, a guaranteed return. Then his eyes find Nora, and a cold smirk twists his lips. And Nora, 14 years in the Navy, and she's our sunk cost, a write-off. The words hit like shrapnel, slicing through her. The crowd chuckles, but Nora's SEAL training locks her jaw, her gaze fixed on a distant clock tower. Inside, a storm brews. She's no failure, and she's about to prove it. Stay with me, because this story of betrayal and redemption will leave you speechless. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to join our journey. Let's dive in. The Yale lawn buzzed with power and privilege, a world Nora had long rejected. Her simple navy blazer and slacks stood out like a bruise among the tailored elegance. She clutched a glass of sparkling water, her knuckles whitening as she fought to keep her composure. Her mother, Celeste Langston, floated past, her designer gown trailing like a comet's tail. She didn't stop, but her whisper cut deep. Nora, I sent you money for a proper dress. You're embarrassing us. Nora's grip tightened, the glass cool against her calloused palms. She'd faced war zones, led missions in the dead of night, but here she was the family's shame, the black sheep who chose service over status. Everett's voice carried again, now regaling his cronies. A senator, a hedge fund mogul, with tales of Ivy's brilliance. She's headed for Goldman Sachs, a star in the making, he boasted, clapping Ivy's shoulder. The crowd cooed, but Nora felt the weight of every eye glancing her way, their pity as sharp as a blade. She focused on her breathing, slow, steady, a technique honed in the chaos of combat. It kept her grounded when the world tried to unravel her. But the air shifted, a low hum growing louder, vibrating in her chest. Heads turned, glasses paused mid-sip. Something was coming, something that would shatter this perfect day and pull Nora back into a fight she never expected. A fight not just for her honor, but for the truth buried beneath her family's lies. The hum on the Yale lawn grew into a roar, a primal pulse that drowned out the string quartet's delicate notes. Nora Whitlock stood rooted under the maple tree, her sparkling water trembling in her hand as a Navy 3C King helicopter tore through the Connecticut sky. Its shadow swallowed the manicured grass, a mechanical beast invading this gilded world. Cocktail napkins spiraled like confetti, graduation caps tumbled, and a woman in a feathered hat shrieked, clutching her head. The crowd scattered, their polished shoes sinking into the soft earth. With lethal precision, the chopper touched down, its rotors whipping up a gale that sent Ivy's gown fluttering like a flag of surrender. The side door slid open, and 3 Marines in full combat gear leaped out, M16s at low ready, forming a tight perimeter. Their presence was a silent threat, a stark contrast to the champagne-fueled chatter moments ago. Then Captain Travis Boone emerged, his boots carving purposeful strides across the lawn. He locked eyes with Nora, snapped a salute sharp enough to cut steel, and said, "Captain Whitlock, you're needed now." Nora's pulse quickened, her SEAL instincts kicking in. The crowd gaped, their whispers a mix of awe and confusion. Everett Langston's jaw tightened, his champagne flute frozen midair. Ivy's eyes widened, her perfect poise cracking. Boone handed the university provost a sealed envelope, its Navy insignia gleaming under the sun. He leaned close to Nora, his voice low and urgent. "It's bad, Captain. Your name's on a $3 million contract with Triton Dynamics. Equipment we never got. You're being framed." The words hit like a flashbang, but Nora's face remained stone, her training a shield against the chaos. She gave a single nod, her mind already racing through scenarios. Someone had weaponized her identity, and the trail led back to the man who just called her a failure. As Boone escorted her to the chopper, Nora felt the weight of her family's stares. Celeste's hand fluttered to her throat, her diamonds glinting like a distress signal. Everett's face was a mask of fury, his control slipping. Ivy stood frozen, clutching her diploma like a lifeline. Nora didn't look back. She climbed aboard, the helicopter's roar swallowing the last of the party's elegance. As they lifted off, the Yale campus shrank below, its ivy-covered walls a fading postcard. Boone handed her a tablet, its screen glowing with a scanned document, a forged signature, her signature, on a contract dated during her deployment in Somalia. "This came from a server in Manhattan," Boone said, his voice grim. "Traced to your father's firm." Nora's stomach twisted, but her resolve hardened. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a calculated strike. The chopper banked over the Long Island Sound, carrying her toward a battle she'd trained for her whole life, one where the enemy wasn't on a distant shore, but in the heart of her own family. The truth was out there, and she'd tear through every lie to find it. The helicopter's interior was all steel and purpose, a world away from the Yale lawn's pretense. Nora strapped in, her mind a battlefield of questions. How deep did this go? Was Everett alone, or was Celeste complicit? The tablet's glow burned her eyes as she scrolled through the contract details. Serial numbers for non-existent naval drones, invoices funneled through shell companies. Each line was a thread in a web she'd unravel. Boone watched her, his silence a soldier's respect. "NSS is already digging," he said. "But we need you at Quantico. There's more, classified intel linking Triton to your father's accounts." Nora's jaw clenched. She'd spent years dodging bullets in the shadows. Now, the shadows were her family's secrets. As the chopper sped toward the Marine base, the horizon darkened, promising a storm that would test every ounce of her strength. The Quanticosef was a fortress of silence, its air thick with the hum of servers and the faint tang of burnt coffee. Captain Nora Whitlock sat at a steel table, her Navy uniform crisp despite the sleepless hours since the Yale lawn. Across from her, Captain Travis Boone's fingers danced over a keyboard, pulling up classified files that glowed like landmines on the monitor. Nora's eyes locked on the screen. A $3 million credit line opened in her name with a Manhattan bank, time-stamped April 7, 2020. She'd been halfway across the world then, leading a covert op in Somalia's Bakarara market, her team pinned down by sniper fire. "This is no coincidence," Nora said, her voice low, a blade wrapped in calm. Boone nodded, his face grim. "The IP address traces to your father's office on Wall Street. And there's more." He opened an email from Celeste Langston to Everett, subject line, "For Nora's future." Attached was a power of attorney document, her signature, flawless, forged, granting Everett full control over her finances. "She trusts you completely," Celeste wrote. The words burned, a betrayal so intimate it stole Nora's breath. Nora leaned back, her SEAL training anchoring her against the rising tide of rage. She'd faced ambushes in Mogadishu, but this was a different kind of war, one waged with trust as the weapon. Boone pulled up another file, a fake Delaware LLC, Triton Ventures, funneling payments to Everett's firm. The metadata screamed sloppiness, created on software banned by the DoD, uploaded from Everett's personal server. "He didn't even cover his tracks," Boone said, almost disbelieving. Nora's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle. Her deployments, her off-grid status, had been Everett's opportunity. He'd used her absence, her honor, to build a house of cards. "Cross-reference every transaction with my deployment logs," she ordered, her voice steel. Boone's screen lit up with a world map, red pins marking her missions. Somalia, Yemen, the South China Sea. Each pin aligned with a fraudulent deal, a timeline of betrayal as precise as a sniper's shot. The deeper they dug, the uglier it got. A scanned Virginia driver's license in Nora's name surfaced, uploaded from Everett's home in Greenwich. She'd never set foot in Virginia outside a layover. "He built a ghost of me," Nora whispered, her fingers tracing the screen. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, as if the walls were closing in. Boone's voice broke the silence. "There's an audio file. NCIS pulled it from your personnel records." He played it, a younger Boone confirming beneficiary details with Everett, who responded smooth as silk. "I'm her power of attorney. Handle it with me." The arrogance in his tone was a spark to Nora's fury. She stood, pacing the SIF's confines, her boots echoing like a war drum. This wasn't just fraud. It was a calculated theft of her identity, her life. Nora's thoughts flickered to a memory. A frigid Christmas in Greenwich, Everett handing Ivy a sleek Audi key while Nora got a $300 check and Celeste's barbed advice. "Buy something feminine, dear." That check, that moment, was a microcosm of this betrayal. A transaction, not love. Now, Everett had escalated, turning her service into a tool for his greed. "We need more," Nora said, her voice a low growl. "Find every email, every server log. I want his empire in ashes." Boone nodded, his fingers already flying. Outside, Quantico's lights flickered in the Virginia dusk, a reminder of the world waiting beyond these walls. Nora's fight was just beginning, and the next move would require every ounce of her cunning. She wasn't just reclaiming her name. She was dismantling a legacy built on lies, and the truth was her most lethal weapon. The Capitol Grille in Boston's Back Bay was a cathedral of power, its dark wood paneling and starched linens humming with the quiet clink of wealth. Captain Nora Whitlock sat across from her mother, Celeste Langston, whose Chanel suit and practiced smile radiated calculated warmth. The air smelled of seared steak and old money, but Nora's iced tea sat untouched, her navy-honed instincts screaming trap. Celeste's voice dripped with honey as she leaned forward, her diamond bracelet catching the chandelier's glow. "Nora, darling, why haven't you called? We've been so worried." The words were a velvet glove over a steel fist, and Nora's jaw tightened. "Worried about me or Dad's portfolio?" she asked, her tone colder than the glass in her hand. Celeste's smile faltered, her eyes darting to the nearby tables where power brokers whispered over martinis. She recalibrated, her voice trembling with rehearsed vulnerability. "Your father made a mistake, Nora. Terrible mistake. But exposing him will ruin Ivy's future. She's innocent. Can you live with destroying her?" Nora's chest tightened, the old wound of family duty tearing open. Celeste's performance was flawless, tears welling just enough to shimmer without smudging her makeup, her hand reaching for Nora's with a practiced tenderness that felt like ice. "You chose that dangerous life," Celeste pressed, her voice rising with a righteous edge. "You left us to play hero. The least you can do is protect your sister." The accusation landed like a grenade, pinning the blame on Nora's service, her sacrifice. Around them, the restaurant's hum faded, waiters gliding past as if sensing the brewing storm. Nora's mind flashed to a night in Yemen, her team pinned under fire, her decisions saving lives. That was her truth, not this gilded cage of lies. She pulled her hand back, the motion sharp, deliberate. Celeste's tears didn't stop, but they were theater, a masterclass in emotional warfare. Nora stood, her movements precise, a seal's calm before action. She pulled 3 $20 bills from her wallet, more than enough for her untouched salad, and placed them on the tablecloth. "I've paid my dues to this family, Mom," she said, her voice low but carrying an unshakable authority. "I paid with nights in war zones, with scars you'll never see, with blood you'll never understand. My debt is settled." Celeste's face froze, her mask cracking as Nora's words cut through the pretense. "I owe Dad one thing, a courtroom where his lies face the light." Nora turned, her boots steady on the polished floor, leaving Celeste alone in her booth, a solitary figure amidst the clatter of silverware. The other diners' glances followed her, whispers trailing like smoke. She didn't look back, but she felt the weight of Celeste's desperation, a silent promise of the next attack. Outside, Boston's evening air was sharp, the city lights glinting off the Charles River. Nora's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Travis Boone. "Found another shell company. It's worse than we thought." Her pulse quickened, the stakes rising like a tide. Celeste's plea wasn't just manipulation. It was a distraction, a desperate move to protect Everett's crumbling empire. Nora's resolve hardened as she stepped into the night, the city's pulse matching her own. She'd faced enemies with rifles. Now her family wielded guilt and lies. But Nora was a warrior, forged in fire, and she'd tear through their facade with the precision of a sniper. The next move was coming, and it would be brutal. Her father's counterstrike was already in motion, and she needed to be ready. The dim glow of Nora Whitlock's Alexandria apartment cast long shadows across the bare walls, the city's lights flickering like distant stars through her window. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a venomous glow illuminating a Politico headline. "Tensions flare in Wall Street dynasty. Daughter's claims sparked doubt." The article was a surgical strike, never naming Nora but painting her as a decorated yet unstable Navy officer, lashing out at her esteemed father, Everett Langston. The insinuation of PTSD was a poison dart, twisting her service into a liability. Nora's fingers tightened around the phone, her sealed training barely containing the white-hot rage surging through her veins. Everett wasn't just fighting to save his empire. He was trying to erase her, to rewrite her truth as madness. The betrayal stung deeper than any bullet, but she'd faced worse odds in the dark corners of the world. This was just another battlefield. A frantic pounding at her door shattered the silence. Nora opened it to find her sister Ivy, her face streaked with tears, clutching a crumpled printout of the article. "Nora, what have you done?" Ivy's voice cracked, raw with panic. "Dad said you're sick, that you're tearing us apart." Her words were a plea, but they carried Everett's venom, his narrative of Nora as the villain. The air between them crackled with tension, years of unspoken resentment bubbling up. Nora's restraint snapped like a taut wire. "Sick," she growled, stepping closer, her voice a low, dangerous rumble. "He stole my name, Ivy. Your Yale degree, your penthouse apartment. It's all built on my honor, on lies he signed with my blood." Ivy's eyes widened, her perfect world crumbling as Nora's words landed like grenades. She staggered back, turned, and fled into the night, leaving Nora alone with the echo of her own fury. In the stillness, Nora sank to the floor, the weight of betrayal crushing her. She'd faced warlords and ambushes, but nothing had prepared her for this, a family that turned her sacrifice into a weapon. The darkness of her apartment felt like a void, swallowing her resolve. Then her eyes caught a battered book on her nightstand, a gift from a grizzled SEAL mentor. She flipped it open to a dog-eared page, Breen Brown's words underlined in faded ink. "The credit belongs to the man who strives, who dares greatly, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood." The words were a lifeline, pulling her back from despair. Everett was the critic on the sidelines, terrified of the warrior in the arena. He was betting on her silence, but Nora was done being invisible. Her fury cooled into a sharp, focused resolve. She'd fight not just for her name, but for every truth he'd tried to bury. Nora stood, her breath steadying as she dialed Captain Travis Boone. "We've got a war to win," she said, her voice calm but lethal. "What's the latest on Triton Ventures?" Boone's reply was grim. "Another account surfaced, Nora. It's tied to a classified DoD contract. Your name's on it, too." The revelation was a spark in the tinder of her determination. Everett's lies were unraveling, but his smear campaign was just the opening salvo. Nora knew the next battle would be uglier, a public crucifixion of her character. But she'd trained in the crucible of Hell Week. She'd survived the unsurvivable. This was her arena now, and she'd fight with every ounce of her strength to expose the truth, no matter the cost. The federal hearing room in Boston's John Joseph Moakley Courthouse was a fortress of dark mahogany and muted gray, its air heavy with the weight of judgment. Captain Nora Whitlock strode in, not in a civilian suit, but in her Navy service dress blues, the gold stripes of a captain gleaming on her sleeves, her seal trident pinned like a badge of defiance over her heart. Every head turned, the room's low murmur dying as her presence shifted the narrative. Across the room, Everett Langston sat at the respondents' table, flanked by a phalanx of lawyers whose tailored suits screamed wealth. He looked relaxed, a Wall Street shark in his element, nodding to the panel of adjudicators as if they were golfing buddies. But when his eyes met Nora's, a flicker of unease crossed his face. His carefully scripted story was about to unravel. Nora took her seat beside her lawyer, Harper Quinn, a former Marine JAG with a predator's glint in her eye. This wasn't a family dispute. It was a battlefield, and Nora was armed with truth. Harper rose, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Members of the board, Captain Nora Whitlock stands here not to settle a personal grudge, but to expose a calculated crime against a decorated officer." A massive screen flared to life behind the panel, displaying a world map dotted with red pins. Somalia, Yemen, the South China Sea, each marking Nora's deployments during Everett's fraudulent schemes. On April 7, 2020, when a $3 million credit line was opened in Captain Whitlock's name, Harper said, her tone unrelenting, she was leading a counter-terrorism op in Somalia, under fire. Another pin appeared, synced with a forged Delaware LLC, Triton Ventures, its documents uploaded from Everett's Wall Street office. The evidence piled up like artillery shells. A fake Virginia driver's license, a power of attorney with Nora's forged signature, and metadata tying every move to Everett's personal server. The room grew colder, the adjudicators' faces tightening as the lies crumbled. Everett's lead lawyer, a silver-haired titan, tried to counter, painting the fraud as a father's misguided protection. Everett stood, his voice smooth with feigned sincerity. "I only wanted to secure Nora's future," he said, his eyes pleading to the panel. Her dangerous life left her vulnerable. Nora's gaze locked onto him, her voice low but piercing. "My future. You stole my present to fund your greed, using the name I swore to defend. That's not protection, it's theft." The room froze, her words a grenade in the silence. Harper delivered the final blow, projecting a hidden investment account in Nora's name, its beneficiary listed as Ivy Langston. A gasp rippled through the audience. Ivy, seated in the back, went pale, her eyes wide with betrayal. "You used me," she whispered, her voice a broken echo that shattered Everett's facade. He staggered back, collapsing into his chair, his face ashen, his empire exposed as a house of cards. The hearing ended in a stunned hush, Everett's lawyers whispering frantically as the panel adjourned. Nora stood, her service blues a silent testament to her honor. Ivy's tear-streaked face lingered in her peripheral vision, but Nora didn't falter. She'd torn down her father's lies, but the victory felt like a wound, raw and heavy. As she stepped into the courthouse's marble hallway, Harper's hand grazed her shoulder, a soldier's gesture of respect. "You did it, Nora," she said. But the fight wasn't over. Everett's world was crumbling, and Nora knew the fallout would test her like never before. The truth had won this round, but the war for her legacy was far from finished. The Hall of Heroes at the Pentagon was a sanctuary of sacrifice, its walls etched with the names of America's bravest, the air heavy with the weight of honor. Captain Nora Whitlock stood in the center, not in her service dress blues, but in her desert combat fatigues, the sandy fabric worn from missions in places most would never see. The faint scent of dust clung to her, a reminder of the battlefields where she'd earned her place. Today, the Secretary of the Navy faced her, his voice steady as he read from a citation, his words sparse but searing. A classified mission in Yemen, a firefight, a wounded teammate saved under impossible odds. He lifted a silver star from its velvet box, its gleam catching the room's soft light, and pinned it to Nora's chest. The weight was slight, but its meaning anchored her, a testament to the life she'd chosen, not the one her father, Everett Langston, had tried to steal. Camera flashes popped like distant gunfire, but Nora's gaze found her true family in the crowd. Captain Travis Boone, Harper Quinn, and her SEAL team, their quiet smiles louder than any applause. Nora stepped to the podium, no script in hand, just the truth burning in her chest. The audience, generals, admirals, families, leaned in as her voice filled the hall, clear and unwavering. I was taught that a SEAL is a quiet professional, that the greatest honor is a mission completed in the shadows, your name unknown, she began. For years, I believed silence was strength. But I've learned it can be a cage. Her eyes swept the room, lingering on her teammates. Silence can let others write your story, erase your truth. I stand here because I refuse to disappear. Her voice grew sharper, a blade honed by years of discipline. Legacy isn't what you're given. It's what you carve with your own hands in the dark when no one's watching. I am Captain Nora Whitlock, United States Navy, and I've written my name in blood and sweat. The applause was a tidal wave rolling through the hall, but Nora felt it most from the nods of her team, their pride a silent vow. Later, in an Arlington dive bar, the kind with faded flags and the smell of spilled beer, Nora sat with her team in a worn booth. The silver star rested on the scratch table, next to a dog-eared photo of their unit, sun-bleached and grinning after a grueling desert op. They traded stories, their laughter raw and unburdened, the kind only those who've shared the edge of survival can know. No one mentioned Everett, the trial, or the lies that had nearly broken her. This was her home, these were her brothers, forged in fire, not finance. As Sam Adams' bottles clinked, Nora's heart settled. She'd fought not just for her name, but for this, the family that saw her. The Pentagon's honor was hers, but this moment, this laughter, was her true victory. Yet, even as she smiled, a quiet question lingered. What did freedom cost when it left you standing alone? The Alexandria apartment was a quiet cocoon, its bare walls reflecting the flicker of city lights across the Potomac. Captain Nora Whitlock stood by the window, the distant glow of Washington's monuments a stark contrast to the darkness within her. The victory over her father, Everett Langston, was complete. His indictment for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy had splashed across Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal. His empire reduced to headlines and frozen assets. Yet, as Nora traced the city's skyline, the triumph tasted like ashes. She'd reclaimed her name, her honor, but the cost was a family shattered, a loneliness that felt like the aftermath of a long mission. In her hand, a worn Bible from a SEAL chaplain, its pages open to John 8 verse 32. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Freedom, she realized, was a double-edged sword, liberating but solitary. The truth had burned away Everett's lies, Celeste's manipulations, and Ivy's illusions, leaving Nora to redefine what home meant when the old one was rubble. Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. A voicemail from Ivy, her voice raw with sobs. I quit my job, Nora. They look at me like I'm part of it. I didn't know, I swear I didn't. Nora's heart ached, but she couldn't soften the truth. Ignorance isn't innocence, Ivy, she replied in her mind, though she didn't call back. It's a privilege paid for with my name. She'd learned that lesson in the desert, under fire, where truth was the only currency that mattered. Now, in the quiet, Nora saw her journey clearly. It wasn't just about justice, but about claiming her story, refusing to let others hold the pen. She thought of her team, the bar in Arlington, the silver star gleaming beside their photo. That was her legacy, forged in loyalty, not lies. But the question lingered. What did it mean to be free when the battle left you standing alone? Nora turned from the window, her resolve crystallizing. She wasn't just a warrior. She was a storyteller now, her voice a beacon for others. She imagined others out there, their truths stolen, their stories twisted. Have you ever felt cornered by those who should have had your back? She whispered, as if speaking to them. The darkness is where we fight best, where silence becomes thunder. She'd won her war, but a new mission beckoned, to build a space where every voice could rise. The city lights pulsed, a reminder of the world waiting. Nora's fight had rewritten her legacy, and now she'd help others do the same, one truth at a time. The Arlington bar's warmth lingered in Nora's memory as she sat in her apartment, the silver star now tucked away, its weight a quiet reminder of her truth. The city beyond her window was alive, its lights a tapestry of stories waiting to be told. Nora had torn down her father's empire, not with vengeance, but with the relentless clarity of facts, her sealed discipline guiding her through the storm. The loneliness of her victory was real, but so was the peace. She'd found her family in the brothers who'd shared her battles, in the honor she'd carved with her own hands. Freedom, she learned, wasn't just the absence of lies. It was the courage to stand in your truth, even when it left you alone. Nora smiled softly, the Bible's words echoing, "The truth will set you free." Her journey was hers now, a legacy built on sweat, sacrifice, and unyielding resolve. To everyone watching, Nora's story is a call to claim your own. Have you ever fought to be seen, to rewrite a narrative forced upon you? Share your truth in the comments. Your voice matters, and this community is here to honor it. Like, share, and subscribe to join our mission of resilience and justice. Let's keep telling stories that refuse to be silenced, together. If Nora's fight moved you, hit that like button to show your support. Drop your own story of resilience or betrayal in the comments. We're building a community where every voice counts. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to stay with us for more true stories of courage and truth. Let's keep the conversation alive.